make it our business. A climate podcast that's about innovators, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are taking actions, creating solutions, and inspiring many. This podcast is supported by US Department of State, created by BBC Media Action, India.
I say plastic, you think pollution. I say plastic, you think forever to decompose. I say plastic, you think more of it in the oceans than fish. Almost everybody knows of the connection between plastic and climate change. But can we go beyond the obvious and look at solutions? Discover more about it and know what we can do about it to cool it down. And that's exactly why we are here today. Hello again, this is Sayema and this is another episode of Cool It Down. And today we have Saurabh Manuja, the technical lead for solid waste management with IPE Global, and Matthew Jose, the CEO and founder of Paperman, a social enterprise that aims to create a future with zero landfills through effective plastic waste management. So are you ready to uncover the facts and hope that's buried under all that plastic? All right. So here we begin, Saurabh. What should I say? Plastic has almost become synonymous with pollution and climate change. Most people understand its effect on our environment and our health. Can you share a few of the not so obvious connections between plastic and climate?
Cyber plastics, according to me, is not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You will still go on exploring for oil. You will have somewhere around 4% of the refined oil coming out as plastics. So you cannot get rid of plastics unless you stop exploring oil resources and refine it. The point is, plastics came as the modern invention. If you see the modern society around us, the inventions around us, they all rely on plastics. Whether it was a drip bottle at an hospital or whether it was a lightweight transportation, it all was possible because we got this wonderful material which is plastics.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge that is around us is its management.
Right.
It has a property which is also its disadvantage, that is its long lasting life. Some of the plastics takes around 50 years, whereas some take even 600 years to degrade. And rather, in environment, they do not degrade but defragment and create microplastics.
Mm-hmm.
These microplastics are then ingested or taken up as food, enter into food supply chain, and that creates a problem.
That's right.
So plastics, I must say, if you look at from the angle of transport, look at it from an angle of packaging, it is all helping us to reduce the amount of weight we have to transport. And somehow I must say that management of plastics can help us decouple it from climate change impact as well.
So Saurabh, you deal with solid waste management and you have such good words to say about plastic. That's very heartening, you know. It is only plastic which is immortal. We all will go, but plastic will remain. To what degree are single-use plastic more harmful than other forms of plastic in use? Is one a far bigger threat than the other?
Single-use plastics became a problem because of its lightweight and non-ease of recyclability. If we look at the government policies around us that say that the single-use plastic carry bags should not be less than 120 micron thick.
That's right.
The idea behind it was to have carry bags which are heavy enough to be picked up by rag pickers or waste pickers for recycling it.
Mm-hmm.
So as the plastic cups, the balloons, the straws that you see around, these are all very unsustainable in terms of their recycling. Like the cost or the economics behind collecting it and transporting it for recycling is the main cause why it still remains on ground and they are not picked up by the informal sector or traders or recyclers. So this is the cause why single-use plastics were even banned. in 2019. The whole idea behind was to stop producing what we cannot manage.
Do you think that the ban has brought about any changes in human behavior, or did it have any effect on people using less single use plastic? Was it effective?
Uh, so, Saima, I guess the ban has been effective. If you look at the industry around us, look at the hotel industry.
Right.
Nowadays, if you go to a five-star hotel, very rarely you will find that a toothbrush is given to you in a wrapped plastic bag. Rather, you will be getting a bamboo brush. Or you will see a plastic comb. Rather, you will be given a wooden comb. Or sometimes they do mark over there that we are trying to avoid plastic, so hence your slippers that are given to you are not wrapped, rather they are just placed there inside your wardrobe. This all happened because the government wanted to strategize and bring the change. Change cannot happen in a night. So these are certain steps, I must say certain hard steps that have been taken. Obviously, monitoring is still needed. Public consultation, or you can say that public participation is still needed. We all understand that these are banned, but sometimes convenience becomes much more important than the government regulation, or sometimes there is an ease of doing things around us and we do not really feel that somebody will come and penalize us. That has been the hindrance of imposing these bans with full effect.
Saurabh, there must be some ways of living that generate fewer waste, especially plastic waste. You spoke about single-use plastic, and the biggest reason that, it worries the human race of the planet Earth so much is because it gets lost and it cannot be recycled. What, in your opinion, are simple changes that we can all bring into our lives towards this?
So the most important and the foremost step would be to say that we should target towards the 3R approach. That is reduce, reuse and recycle.
Interesting.
I'll give you a very simple example. If we start using ball pens in our college days or school days, the amount of ball pens or pilot pens that we were using were almost one a week. Rather, if we switch to a fountain pen, I can't imagine, like I have this fountain pen and this has been with me since last many years. So I don't throw pens around. Rather, I see my colleagues throwing pens in dustbins often. So these are little changes that we can bring in. The idea would be that target towards strategies that can help you reduce. If you talk about daily lifestyles, see, certain things we cannot avoid. You will not be able to avoid bringing milk in milk pouches.
That's right.
All right. Clean the milk pouch, store it in your kitchen in a bag. Store it till your bag is full. Sometimes you cannot avoid your child bringing in PET bottles for beverages. It is all right. Store your PET bottles ahead again in the wardrobe or in your kitchen itself. Once your bags are filled up, just donate those bags to the waste trader or a rack picker. Your problem will be much more solved. Second point would be, if you want to do something, stop using LDP bags. Carry your own cloth bag or canvas bags along with you whenever you go out for shopping. If you cannot avoid an LDP bag from a nearby grocery store, just try to open that bag without tearing it off and try to give that bag again for reuse. So these are certain steps. There have been certain strategies as well. If you can try, just have a bag of plastic around you in your kitchen or at a store inside your house. Try not to throw away plastic from your house. Just store it there. Store it till you have 10 kgs of plastics. Then look at it, give it to a rack picker or an informal sector trader. They will take it because they understand this is clean material for them to recycle. So these are certain steps that we can take to avoid plastics or to manage it well, the strategy should be on 3 R's.
That's right. Saurabh, this is very interesting. So, what you're saying is that single use plastic can be recycled. We just need to ensure that we keep it at the right place, give it to the right person or right agency so that it can be recycled and it doesn't get lost.
Correct.
Saurabh, you've studied and written about plastic straws attached with used beverage cartons. We do see a shift in the usage and find paper straw as alternative. What other such opportunity do you see for replacing plastic usage at a scale where alternatives need to be found?
Sayema, according to me, even switching to a paper straw was not a wise decision.
Why would you say that?
Rather, why do you need a straw? So my question is, why would you need a straw? Of course, you can say that there are sometimes medical challenges, there are sometimes children who do want straws along with beverages. The point is that you can always have a steel straw, your own steel straw. You can clean it, have it very hygienic with you and use it. The point is that we should look at strategies which at the first step try to avoid any form of waste. Even paper straw that you are generating might be difficult to recycle at some point of time. The whole idea is that there are alternatives around. You look at literature, you look at strategies that different hotels have adopted, look at those documents, you will all find it around. But to bring a change, alternative is not the solution. A change, or if you want to say that I want to avoid plastics with something, so that something has to be plastic in center and everything around it. It has to be capacity building, it has to be innovations, it has to be bringing citizens together for this, has to be young entrepreneurs to bring new strategies or new alternatives. You have to have youth as your brand ambassadors. You have to build a system which is inclusive, even including the informal sector around you and uplifting their wages as well. So it has to be a whole system that has to come together and get a solution. Alternative alone cannot be a solution.
Saurabh, you spoke about informal sector, and I really wanted to come there because each time we go to a vegetable vendor or a fruit seller, and we kind of say that why are you giving stuff to us in a plastic bag? It is banned and all of that. They say, what choice do we have? What alternative do we have? Now, as a customer, as a consumer, I should be carrying my paper cloth bag. That's right. The government do you think the government should be actually providing or assisting the informal sector or the lower income groups who are going to incur more cost if they start providing the paper bag or the cloth bag? Is the onus on them, or is the onus on the government, or us, the customers and the consumers, in your opinion?
So I must say, Sayema, we have a very good governance system around us that supports waste management, very strongly supports waste management. The point is that government alone cannot bring a change, or an urban local body alone cannot bring a change, even if they are incurring a cost and giving you cloth bags. The point is, until and unless you start with yourself, or a consumer starts thinking that I will not take that LDP bag given by a fruit vendor, rather I'll ask him to put the fruits inside my cloth bag. The change is not going to come. So it is we who will have to bring the change. The support system is very well around us. If you look at the strategies, you look at the policies, look at the pace with which government has been trying to push banning single-use plastics, or come up with strategies at some places whereby like you are not allowed to take small PET bottles. You cannot have less than 2-liter PET bottle in Port Blair, for instance. You cannot have a LDP bag in Shimla, for instance. These are certain strategies which government is pushing. But the point is, it cannot come to reality until and unless you come up with your own system or your own bag or your own strategy, that you will not take the LDP back home today.
Right. Saurabh, we will be speaking to an entrepreneur who has actually made it his or her business, But I want you to think of those instances where you just sat and wished that somebody should start doing this. I want you to give some ideas to the budding entrepreneurs who are tuned in right now, who are listening to you, about what is the kind of business that they can model their entire, thoughts on, and actually make it their business.
Sayema, if you look at the business streams around, so there are a lot of businesses around us. But if somebody really wants to make a change in the society or help us combat plastics, I must say they should look at businesses which allow reusable packaging. I'll give you a very good example, or a very simple one on that side.
Right.
If you order a tiffin box at your office, this is example that I have felt. In my previous organization, I used to get a dibba, a lunch box, a homemade food being served by some local entrepreneur who will bring a box. That is a reusable box. Every day, 4 o'clock, the box will be returned back. While the other colleagues who are sometimes late in ordering their boxes will have to order on some online platform. A packed food will arrive in the office. Once they are done, they'll have a lot of plastic bowls, paper bags, everything to throw into the dustbin. Then at that point of time, even I realized that this system of packaging food was generating a lot of waste. So I see there is lot of scope where reusable packaging can be promoted. Even there are, if we look at countries outside, there are entrepreneurs who have been working hard with businesses to make them sustainable with reusable packaging. We see this nowadays even in automobiles. We see sometimes even in export businesses that the pallets on which materials are sent out are reusable, made up of plastics, but these are again reusable and reusable. We see food being packed in reusable packaging. See, we will have to find a solution to the biggest whale on the sea. The biggest whale that we have today is packaging industry. Almost 42% of plastics that we consume is consumed for packaging. And if we can help put this stream into reusable packaging, and we do not allow waste to go out from this stream, lot of things can be changed.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. You really have re-emphasized that it has to begin from us. There is no other way. And what I loved is that you did not make villain out of plastic, which we always do. We're like, okay, plastic is the villain. But that's not the case. The case is we need to start. We need to learn how to manage it. And that's how we will be cooling it down. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for being with us, for speaking to us. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
My pleasure, Sam. Thank you.
All right, we're talking about a very interesting topic, and we spoke to an expert. Today, we'll be speaking to a practitioner, someone who has actually made it his business. Meet Matthew Jose, the founder and CEO of Paperman, a name that leads me to my very first question. Matthew, welcome to the podcast. For a person who's made a business out of recycling plastic waste, the name of your company comes as a surprise. Why and how did you pick the name Paperman?
Hi, Sayema. So I started Paperman in 2010. I was right out of college and about 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I started it as a model where we were going from school to collect paper and create awareness about recycling.
I see.
So I kept doing this at about 100 schools in Chennai, and one of the schools where I went collecting, the kids called me the Paperman, and that's how the name stuck. Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. So that's how you got your name. But I'd like to go a little before that. When did your interest in, waste management actually begin? Was there a particular incident that led to it? What's the story behind Paperman?
So I worked in an NGO right after my graduation, where I learned about waste and the challenges that's happening in the space. I did a couple of campaigns around global warming. It started as a voluntary work back in college. And over time, I got really fascinated by this, and I thought, hey, let me put a few years into this and kind of solve the situation. But yeah, it's 15 years and still counting. So yeah.
As brands and consumers are becoming conscious of their choices and the role that they can play in reducing the use of single-use plastic, how are you helping brands in their journey to pivot to better solutions?
So I started working in the space in 2010, as I mentioned. Over the years, we worked with various business models in the space. We built a mobile app that got your local kabadiwala to come to your house in about 20 minutes, pick up your trash. We set up material recovery facilities. In 2016, the government of India introduced a rule called the Extended Producer Responsibility Rule, which came into implementation around 2018, 2019. Whereby brands, any FMCG company or any brand that uses plastic packaging was supposed to be responsible to collect that plastic back from the markets.
Mm-hmm.
And Paperman has been helping companies. We have helped over 100 companies in the last 5 years to offset the plastic through the Extended Producer Responsibility Program. We had them meet various design solutions where they can use more recycled content in their packaging so that they are not using fresh virgin plastic again and again. So we help a lot of brands mitigate such harm that they make through their plastic packaging.
Right. Matthew, I have to ask you this. I go back to my childhood and I would always wonder that when the trash collector would come and collect the trash from homes, he'll end up paying some bucks to us, So trash has been, cash since very long. But they say trash is the new cash.
Yeah.
Would you explain that?
Yeah. So there is value in recycling. For example, like say, let's take a plastic bottle that we all use, like a Coke bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now this bottle, when you put it to recycling, you get polyester fiber out of it, right?
Okay.
Which can be used in making your textiles. Now that's a raw material for textiles, right? So there is an economic value that can be created by recycling it, right? So that's exactly what is passed on to, when people come to your house and pick it up, that's what is passed on. But the challenge over here is, yes, there are quite a few items that you get paid for, but there are a lot of items that there's no economic value for, or there can be economic value for collection back. So, that's where I think the challenges lie. There are a few items like your newspaper or the bottles and some steel materials and all that, which you get value for. But at the same time, like a plastic cover, a thin cover, chips packets and all that, where it's lighter material, where there's no much extraction value, all those materials get left behind. Yeah.
So, Matthew, if I may ask, I always used to wonder that, we give trash and we get cash because that's like a motivational scheme by the government to not throw, trash anywhere. Little did we know that all of that is getting recycled and getting made into something else. Do you think there is a way out where we, an ordinary person is also encouraged in some way or given some kind of a motivation to start collecting plastics and start, disposing it off in the right way?
I feel, definitely. But I don't think motivation is the way forward. I think it's more got to do with discipline, right? It does, it's incentivizing everything is challenging because when you're looking at this scale waste, let's put it this way, in a developed country like US or Singapore, people spend about $150, or that's equivalent to about 10,000 rupees a month to get their waste disposed.
Right.
There's a cost of disposing waste, right? And whereas in a country like India, there is no charge around it.
Right.
right? So this also affects developing the infrastructure around it, and this affects also bringing good quality employment around that space. So yes, it was great for a while, but at this stage of India where we are developing, we need to build in the systems for waste management. It is essential that there needs to be the right economic charge for disposing the waste. That is a mandate, and I feel I'm a strong proponent of that. And that's only going to improve the industry and improve waste handling in India.
So I hear you. You are talking about increasing the awareness levels and basically educating people more on it. You've been in this space for over 14 years now, Matthew. Have you seen the nature of plastic waste change over the years? And how has that impacted the climate? And how have you adapted your work to deal with it?
Yeah. So consumerism is always growing, and India is also growing with this GDP every year. The more we grow, the more we consume, right? There's a large group of people in their mid-20s who are getting into the employment space. And when you immediately get into employment, you want to buy more things, right?
Right.
And so that is really changing the way the kind of material that is being used up. It's very high. It's huge, and you'll see the kind of waste that is created at growing at alarming rates of 10 to 15% every year. But our infrastructure is not adequate enough to meet the demand. So every year, what happens is we have this post-mortem way of doing work. Waste comes, accumulates, goes into landfills, and then we try to clear it off. Right? We are trying to clear it off. But then we need to build effective infrastructure that can handle that day's waste on that day itself, right? Otherwise we'll just be covered with legacy waste, more and more piling up, and that's going to create more climate issues because when food waste and all these material piles up in landfills together, over time that creates methane, which is a much higher problem to climate issues than carbon dioxide, right?
That's right.
So it's critical that we address waste issues in a systematic way. Cities have to plan for 15 years, 20 years ahead. We should not look at, okay, hey, what can we just think about what today or next week or the next project? It should actually have a vision for waste management, and every city should come up with it. Every town should come up with it, and that's critical for effective waste management.
Matthew, I'll come to the landfills part, but I really want to understand this. In Delhi NCR, we have been witnessing mountains of landfills now. Rather than they being on the periphery of the city, sometimes they're right in the center. What is happening? What do you think is happening? Why are they becoming mountains? Again, is it the problem of the infrastructure to handle that kind of waste?
Yeah, again, it's a lack of vision. I feel. It's a mismanagement. It's a lack of vision. It's lack of consistent approach towards solving this issue. And I think a lot has been spoken about this. In fact, I think last year at one point the height of the Delhi landfill reached the height of Qutub Minar or something like that, right?
That's right.
I was hearing about this. And there's a lot of deaths as well in where there's slides, waste slides that's happening, and a lot of cases of deaths that's happened there as well. Personally, I feel this should not be allowed in. There should be a case that needs to be put about this, and it needs to be fought out. That citizens have to come forward and ask the administration to take action on this. Just that there's not been a consistent approach for solving it. So I personally feel the single biggest thing that every city should do is to build a vision statement. Because every time we are in this whole thing where we are opening a tap and then we are letting the water flow and we're trying to mop it, that's not going to work, right? We need to close the tap somewhere, right? And I think, and that's how we should start looking at it. We should see, understand what is the kind of material that's flowing into the city. What is that it could be in the next 10, 15 years? It's changing. India is rapidly growing. So, what has happened to the Delhi landfills in the last 15 years, the same amount of waste is going to come into the landfills in the next 3 years. So it's going to grow at that rapid rate, right? So we need to equip our government infrastructure with with people, talent, with a strong plan and efficient and implementation of the whole thing. Yeah.
So the heartening part is that you are saying that it can be resolved and it should be resolved, because often I speak to, residents who are staying around those mountains of landfills, and throughout the year they have challenges. In summer the landfill catches fire. In monsoons, because of the rains, things start decaying. They are perpetually inhaling that toxic gas that we're talking about. So yes, that resolution is very, very important. And your stated mission is a world with no landfills. Landfills are often, out of sight, out of mind. But does having them out of the city limits really keep our air and water safe? Or have they been kept, on the peripheries of the city so that just people can't see them?
Yeah. So I think this is every city does this, right? When the city, every Indian city is growing, right? And at one point, every time we have a landfill just in the outskirts of city, and then the city grows, and then there is a residential complex that's coming right next to the landfill, and then they complain, and then they move it again another further 15-20 kilometers away outside the city, where again the city catches up to that landfill, right? So this is an ongoing
Right.
there's an ongoing process that's happening, and this is exactly why I say there's lack of vision. Our idea, when I say lack of landfills, you don't need a landfill. What is the point of a landfill? A landfill is when that waste that is generated from the multiple sources in the city is not being able to handle on that particular day. It is where it is being dumped.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to efficiently handle that material
Right.
on a day-to-day basis, why do you require a landfill?
That's right.
Right? And that's just simple logic, right? In every business, every thing operates like that. The raw material that comes in, you handle it within that week. So we have Indian landfills. It's amazing. Like, we look at it, we have waste lying from 1980s lying in these landfills.
Yeah. They've become like,
So
the
it's just
antique
piling
versions
up.
of our trashes now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But Matthew,
So,
I really, really want you to guide us, those listeners who are listening in, who have the passion, who have ideas, and who also have, the money to invest in a cause like this. As an entrepreneur, as a trash economy accelerator, what would you tell these budding entrepreneurs? What are the different ideas you can actually, toss it in front of them, and they can maybe lap it up and make it their business?
So I would first and foremost say use your voice and get your government, your city government, your town government, your local body to have very clear goals and effective plans around waste management. That is a number one priority, right? Use your voice for that, right? Second, create a conducive space for entrepreneurship to grow. There are multiple business models in the waste management space where a lot of people can earn an income and thrive. So make it more conducive for them to have contracts and with the government, because ultimately there should be a government has to handle the primary responsibility of it. Third, I would urge every Indian to start paying for their waste management. That is something which I think, it's great to hear, like trash for cash, all these, it's a very nice ring to it. But that really spoils the whole development in that sector. And they have to understand it's waste that is going out. Yes, some value can be extracted from it, but there's a lot of cost that goes in logistic management and handling. Today, it is cheap and there is no thing, because the livelihood income in that is very, very limited. So I'll give you an example. An average waste handler in US earns about $70,000 a year.
Wow.
This is in the New York department. So I went there and I did a research on this. So they earn about $70,000 a year, right? And then plus when they work on days where there is snowing and more like that, they get additional. So up to about $100,000 a year they can earn based on their kind of work that they do. In India, in an annual basis, someone earns about 5,000, somebody who works in waste in the same job earns about $5,000 for a year, right? And that too, there is lack of consistency in everything around it, right? Which is really sad, right?
Yeah, that's shocking.
I'm talking about it at a higher paid this thing, and there are a lot of informal people who work even at like $2,000 a year. There are a lot of people working in that space in $2,000 a year as well, right? And all this trash for cash and all that works because these people are working at $1,000 or $2,000 a year, right?
Right.
So unless the jobs get better recognition and get paid, I think that's very, very important. So my 3 things will be: use your voice, get your local bodies to act upon waste management vision. Second, make it more conducive for entrepreneurs to work in the space, make it easy to get contracts, make it more transparent, the government process of giving products more transparent. Third, people should start learning to spend on waste management. I don't think these freebies is going to help the country. Take it as your responsibility. Where our passion, put our monies in where our passion lies. So yeah, definitely spend on this. That could be also investing into home composting, putting the effort to doing that, all that. So yeah, definitely put the money where it is.
So very well said. I think our attitudes need to change. Our attitudes need to shift. We need to understand the importance of waste disposal and people who are working in this sector. And I think only then we will realize how important this is. But Matthew, I'm not going to let you go because you still have to assure people, the budding entrepreneurs who are thinking of, making it their business. You have to assure them, is it lucrative?
Depends on what you're doing in the sector. I worked about for 14 years, of which the first 7 years was very, very difficult. In the last 7 years, we have built our business models in certain ways where we have found certain people, clienteles who are ready to pay for our services. But it's not an easy space to be in, to be honest. But yes, there is opportunity that is coming. Things are getting better. Than what it was 14 years back. But still, there's so much of issue in terms of how government works on this area and things like that. There's a lot more clarity that needs to be developed, and we are hopeful. We stay hopeful as we be in the sector for a long period. Yeah.
Right. We have such a huge climate crisis, standing in front of us. We all need to do our bit in whatever capacity. Thank you so much, Matthew, for speaking to us, for guiding us.
Thank you, Sayema.
Pleasure speaking to you, Matthew. So while we can't wish plastic away, there is so much we can do to minimize its use. Remember to carry your own cloth bag. And for the budding entrepreneurs, innovation in packaging is the need of the hour. There's a huge scope for it. I'm sure this episode of Cool It Down would have given you enough ideas to do exactly that. Cool it down. As individuals and as entrepreneurs, let's make it our business. So that's it for now. But the world needs a lot more ideas, a lot more guidance. And that's exactly what's coming your way in your next episodes of Cool It Down. Stick around.
Cool it down. Let's make it our business.